Yeah, grab my computer.
What up, everybody? Yeah, it's cool. Mike, you can bob your head if you want to, man. That's a good jam. Welcome into the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast. I am Jamie Horton with you as always. And we've got a very special treat for you guys today. Mike James played in the NBA for 11, 12 seasons, something like that, Mike. Played in the league a long time, man. Played basketball, been around the game pretty much forever. We're going to talk about that. So it's great to have you here with us here on the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast, man. First of all, we'll start with this. I want to get a little personal. How are things with you and your family? And obviously, it's a weird time for everybody right now. It's a crazy time. How are things where you are right now with this quarantine and coronavirus and all that? How are you guys holding up?
I mean, we're holding up extremely well. I think that it gives you an opportunity to get back in order, get your family back in order, start building relationships again. You know, it's hard. Sometimes you take advantage of not really spending time with one another, and you get a rhythm of life. But you know, even in this devastation that we're going through now, lost a lot of friends, lost some friends, lost some people in my neighborhood that I grew up with close. So it's not like it hasn't. I think everyone has had someone that has been affected by it, but at the same time, it's truly given me an opportunity to really love on my wife better, love on my girls better, and really grow. And that's what the positive that I'm really looking at what's going on in this situation.
You know, I said that our very first episode a few weeks ago with my friend and colleague Eric Strickland, also played in the NBA for about a decade or so. That was one of the things that I talked about with him was that, you know, if you can take anything positive out of this, it's the fact that it's given you an opportunity to sort of reflect on things, apologize to people you might have flaked on in the past because now you wish you had those opportunities.
Yeah.
To go out and hang out with friends or have barbecues or whatever the case may be. So certainly be thankful for what you have and hold your loved ones and your friends tight and keep everybody around you, you know, close or get closer to them in a time where we're all separated. That's weird. That's a weird thing. Get closer while you're separated. That's the thing. So, again, visiting with Mike James here on the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast. An interesting story. Let's go back all the way to 1998. That was a 1998 draft. I'm a Mavs fan based out of Fort Worth, grew up here in DFW. So that was my favorite draft. Obviously, that was the Dirk draft. Another former Mav, Vince Carter, was in that draft as well, but you went undrafted. Here at EPLAY, one of the things that ultimately we want to do as basketball fans is we want to see a better product on the floor. And how do you do that? You find better players, player development. We like to use analytics to find diamonds in the rough or find players that do things that get overlooked by the eyeball test. So let's talk about this. You come out undrafted out of Duquesne in 1998. What were your expectations coming out of Duquesne? Were you expecting to play professionally right there? Did you expect to get drafted? And when you didn't, how did that sort of change your vision?
Well, They told me that I would be a late first round, early second round draft pick, and watching the draft and hearing all the names being called and not hearing my name being called was a little disappointing, especially when I saw some of the guys that went before me that I was able to outplay. And, you know, even that year, I didn't even go to any combines. I wasn't invited to Portsmouth. I wasn't invited to none of the Chicago camp. So nobody really gave me an opportunity or a chance coming out of college. And went overseas, you know, my first year on really just okay, we'll give him a chance. You know, we don't know how good he is, but you know what? We can get him for cheap. And that's how my career started.
Again, visiting with Mike James here on the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast. So you go from there to European, to playing overseas, playing in Euro ball. I think you played in Austria? Was that your first stop? Austria?
Yes.
So let's talk about that because that's another focus for EPLAY is trying to find folks that play overseas or can go overseas and everything else. So talk about that journey. What was it like playing there?
You know, it was interesting. It was the first time that I played on a kitchen floor. It was the first time that I played on a clay floor, and it was weird, but at the same time, it was a great experience. We won a championship over there. My wife and I, the team, the team liked me so much, and I was telling them that I'm about to get it. I got engaged, and I might be getting married, in the summertime. And they was like, "Oh, we'll love for your wife to come here, and we'll take care of the wedding, and we'll pay for it." I'm thinking to myself, "Wait a minute, I ain't got to pay for this wedding, and you guys are going to take care." I said, "Listen, we can have an engagement party in the summertime when I get back." But I said, "I love for this." So I got married over there. My coach gave my wife away to me. So my teammates were the one throwing the rice on us. And so it was
Was this in
definitely an
Austria or was
experience.
this when you went to
This is
France?
in Austria.
This is in
No, this is in
Austria. Okay.
Austria. Yes, my first year coming out. And then, went to Chalon Champagne the next season. Had a pretty good career there, and played in a summer league game. That it was the Ed Pinckney Summer League, and I can remember working out in Oakdale, Louisiana, maybe running 5 miles every day, lifting in a gym that had no air conditioning, playing in the gym. It was just by myself and just preparing and believing that I was going to get an opportunity. Played in the summer league tournament, and there was the USA Select team that year. Steve Blake, Jason Williams, all these guys were coming out, and Jay Wright was one of the coaches. And I can remember playing in this game. I didn't play actually the first game. They sat me on the bench because they didn't know who I was. So they playing against select teams, so they played their guys that they thought were good enough to play against them. So they got their butt kicked. And Jay Wright saw me on the bench and was like, "Why do y'all have Mike James on the bench? Y'all don't know who this kid is?" Because he used to coach at Hofstra, and being a Long Island kid, he always used to make the statement that I was one of the guys that he allowed to get out of the backyard, because I used to always go up to Hofstra University and work out with the team and really outplay a lot of their guards. But so Jay Wright was like, "Man, this kid can play. You got to give him a chance." And so the next game, they allowed me to play, and I'm talking about Steve Blake couldn't get the ball over half court. I had about 30 points. And so it just, everyone was really like, "Wow, this kid." Then that opened up the eyes of everyone. And Ed Pinckney, he was like a scout for the Miami Heat. So he was telling them consistently about, "Man, you guys got to come see Mike James play. This kid can play." And my wife was pregnant with our first daughter at this time. I had to make a decision whether to stay and play in a big summer league game where the Miami Pat Riley and all the front office was going to come to this game to watch, or go home and see my daughter. She was already born, so it's already been 5 days, and I was like, I can't take no more. So I was like, you know what? I would rather go home, see my daughter, and worry about this later. So that game, another guy got signed because Pat Riley got a chance to be able to see him play. And I went back overseas to Nancy, but they kept an eye out on me. So that following year, they brought me to a summer league workout that was like a 3-day workout. And it was probably about maybe 30 free agents in the gym that day, and I outplayed everyone for the weekend. So Pat Riley basically said, we couldn't evaluate you in 3 days. Can you stay another week? And so I said, sure. So they brought in about another 20 free agents, and I outplayed everyone. And then he said, "Hey, we couldn't evaluate you in that week. Can you stay another week?" And so I find him. They said the statement again. Another week, they brought in another 20 free agents, and then after that, they signed me to the summer, a partial guarantee, and they didn't allow me to go home at all. So it was like they found me and basically just put me in like their little dungeon of the training and just started. I was like their little test monkey. Whatever they asked me to do, I was just doing, just happy to be there. But I was an animal that they didn't really understand who I was as a basketball player. But in my heart, even though I took that route as a basketball player, I always looked at myself as a really good and as a great piece to any team that's trying to win.
So that's what 2001 to you played 2 seasons there in Miami, right? So that was your first gig in the league was with Miami. So that was 2001. You played there for 2 seasons, right?
Yes.
Talk about your
Yes.
time there again. Talking about Pat Riley, that was obviously we saw that Heat team sort of grow into that 2006 champion. With the additions of the Caron Butlers of the world, and obviously the Dwayne Wades, and I think they were around a similar. I don't remember when they got drafted, but they were pretty close together, right? So they had building a young core there. Talk about your time there in Miami.
I mean, that's Pat Riley taught me what hard work was. I think playing in his regime, it really when I went to other teams and other organizations, I always had a certain work ethic about myself that was built in Miami under Miami's tutelage of Eric Spoelstra, Pat. I remember Eric Spoelstra. He used to work in the video coordination, and I used to call him eight at night, 9 at night. Eric, man, you want to go to the gym, man? Let's get some work in. And so I was always trying to figure out how I can get better in this game because when my opportunity come, I want to take full advantage of it. And I don't know, I just always felt like in Miami, Pat Riley he just always thought of me as a certain type of player. Like I should be happy I'm in the league. So I never really felt like it was home. And I remember I used to make the statement all the time, I got into this game by myself. So it doesn't matter whatever team I have to play for. I'm just looking for a team that's going to believe that what they have is something valuable and it's not just a third guard or a fourth guard, just happy to be in the league. And so Riles was amazing, the best motivational coach. He's the best motivational speaker I've ever heard. He taught me truly. One of the statements that he's made that stuck with me my whole career, he used to always make the statement, the way you respect the basketball player is by not respecting them at all. And I took that my rookie year and I ran with that my whole career. And I really played like I didn't respect the person, even though in my head I might be thinking, man, I'm trying to figure out how not to make them too mad at me because I really want their sneakers and their jersey after the game. But now they probably looking at me like I hate you just as much as you look like you are acting like that you hate me. So it never really worked out that well, how I didn't respect the player, but at the same time, it was always how much I respected them. It showed how hard I went at them.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great piece of philosophy. As you said that, I was thinking to myself, I was like, what does he mean by that? Respect them by not respecting them. And I guess I kind of understand now. And especially, look, in your position, right? I mean, a guy that's fighting to get into the league. And once you get there, the fight is to stay in the league. To stay there, to continue to grow, and to continue to develop, and to be a guy that who eventually, and we'll get there, gets a payday one day. Gets an opportunity in free agency after really 3 really good seasons. That kind of, and we'll get there because I love talking about this journey because your basketball story is, it's interesting to say the least, but certainly it's got a lot of stuff that kind of bodes to the fact that. Staying in there, staying in that moment, staying with a vision, and always looking ahead. Also about Pat Riley, is this in person with the hair and everything else? I mean, as an outside person, is that really that serious to him? That whole the look, the aesthetics of Pat Riley.
Coolest man, he's the coolest person. Just everything always have to be sharp. His shoes was always sharp. His hair was always slick to the side. I mean, he just really cared about his image that he looked when he was out there. But at the same time, he put a lot of effort, not just physically into himself, but also mentally. And he was a thinker, and he was really focused on what he was have to do now and also his future. So Riles was definitely a great teacher. He was definitely a great person to gain a lot of information from based off of his experience.
Again, visiting with Mike James, former NBA player, played a long time in the league here on the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast. Let's go from Miami to Boston. Certainly a change of temperatures and 1,000 miles or so up the East Coast there. Let's talk about that transition, because again, now your journey in the NBA is I got here to the league. Now I got to stay in the league. I want to stay in the league. I want to play in this league for a long time. So you get that tutelage under Pat Riley for a couple seasons there in Miami, and then you go north. Let's talk about that stop in Boston.
You know, it's funny because Travis Best played with me my second year with the Miami Heat, and Jim O'Brien was the head coach for the Boston Celtics, and he came to Miami to watch Travis Best play some pickup. I mean, Rajah Bell was in the gym, Tim Hardaway. It was so many pros that was in the gym playing, and it was and so I had probably one of like my best weeks in the gym. I had Rajah Bell kicking chairs and winning all the games, and so Jim O'Brien got to see me, and he made the statement. He said, I can't promise you a lot of money because Miami wanted to re-sign me with a 2-year deal. But I always felt like Pat would always treat me a certain type of way, and he never would allow me to grow in the game where I believed that I wanted to, or where at the speed that I thought that I was supposed to grow at. And so I always just was like, you know what? I want to start in this league. I want to be an all-star in this league. I'm better than what he thinks about me. So Jim O'Brien, he said, Mike, I can't guarantee you a starting position, and I can't even offer you no money because, only thing that we have to offer you is the league minimum because we're over the cap. But I can offer you an opportunity. That was enough for me. Prayed about it, talked with my wife about it, and when he told me that all he can do is offer me an opportunity. And this was my first year starting in the NBA. I was averaging like 10, 5, and 5, the first like maybe 25 games. And now I'm really being considered a solidified guard in this game and a starting guard in this game with something that was only a dream just a couple of months ago or even a year ago. And now here it is. I'm out here getting my name called with the first group. And so it was definitely an opportunity that was presented to me and I took full advantage of. And I remember playing against Miami. We opened up against Miami on Halloween. I'll never forget it. And I had about maybe 18 points. We beat Miami by 20. But I grew up in Miami, and the only thing I knew about the league was being in Miami. And now, as a starter in the NBA and Pat Riley getting to see me, I don't think he really appreciated it. Like I looked at it, I think it was more being pissed off of the fact of him letting something go that was probably, that he probably thought of a future with me, but I didn't see that. I didn't feel it. And because of that, I was like, man, my show must go on, and I'm willing to take my show anywhere. And I get traded from Boston. And then that's when I go to Detroit. I remember it was coming after All-Star break, being in I'm in my room. We're about to play on the road, and my agent, he tells me, Mike, I'm 99% sure you're not getting traded. Trust me, your name is not on the board. And Danny Ainge knocks on my door. And I looked through my peephole and I said, ooh, I don't know why Danny Ainge is at my room right now, but this might not be good. And so I opened the door and he says, Mike, I got some good news and some bad news. The bad news is you're getting traded. The good news is you're getting traded to Detroit. They're a team that's contending for a title this year, and they really like you, and I think that this would be a great opportunity for you. And I'm like, in one part of me, I'm like, man, I don't really want to go nowhere. I'm starting, but in the second part, I'm like, you know what? Detroit is a really good team, and man, we got a chance to really do something special this year. So I ain't got no say so. It's just pack up my bags and basically the show must go on. And being in Detroit, I always made the statement, I was born in Miami, but I grew up in Detroit as a basketball player. That's when I started gaining real confidence out there on the court and really coming into my own, is really being around those guys.
Now, when I first spoke to you the other day, again visiting with Mike James here on the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast, one of the first little conversations we had is, and we're going to get to this hopefully as well, is that I mentioned to you this documentary that's going on right now, this docuseries called The Last Dance, talking about the Michael Jordan-led Chicago Bulls there from the early 90s through the end of the 90s there. And you mentioned Detroit. You grew up with Detroit basketball. What we talk about, or what we've learned about as fans, is that in Detroit, especially in some of those eras in the late 80s and that early 90s, Detroit basketball meant that you got your butt kicked. It was a physical brand of basketball. Talk about learning or growing into the game of basketball in the city of Detroit.
It was like being in a dog. It was like being in a dog kennel with nothing but pit bulls and and mastiffs and dojos and nothing but killer dogs. Like, if you was a poodle, if your personality was a nice personality or pushover, you was going to get ran over and you wouldn't last or survive there. From the players to Larry Brown mentally, he's going to test you and challenge you, not just physically, but mentally. And he really wants to see how tough you are. He thinks he's the toughest person in the room. You know, he'll walk in there. I remember he just came from hip surgery. He had a hip replacement. He'll come limping in there, do his little push-ups. He'll walk and look Ben up and down, look Rashid up and down, always acting like he want to fight someone, you know. But at the same time, the atmosphere was such a family atmosphere. No one had any ill will towards the other person. Whenever there was a birthday party, it could have been a 3-year-old's birthday party, you know, the guys would still come. It could be any function that's happening for a family member. The whole team will still feel like they have to be a part of it. I remember when we used to get off the bus, when we was on the road, Rip would always just scream out, "Hey, we meeting downstairs in 30 minutes. Whoever coming to eat, let's go." And so it was never clicks. It was never, you know, whispering to this guy or telling this guy we're going to meet in 10, 15 minutes. And then you meeting some of your teammates in some of the same places. No, we all came together. And it was like a gang, you know. That's how we took each other. And I was like the little brother on the team. And that was the funny part about it. But at the same time, man, they really respected me as a ball player as well.
Not only that, Mike, you got a chance to win a ring. You got a chance to be a part of a championship team there with the Detroit Pistons. Talk about that. I mean, obviously, I think the pinnacle of everybody's career professionally in sports is to win championships. Even though, you know, it was you had the situation in Boston, and it kind of soured a little bit because you were like, man, I got traded. I was starting to like my situation. But you go to a good team in Detroit. The journey of winning a championship, kind of take me through that. What's that ride like, man?
You know, it started in, I want to say, maybe December. We went on a run. We have a record for holding like the most teams under 70 points in a game when the shot clock, I mean, in a 24-second shot clock era. And it was crazy because we was like, man, not only are we good offensively, but can't no one score against us? Like, this isn't normal. So we would go to games, and I remember we was playing against Jersey, and we beat them by 40. But their crowd was still going crazy because they were the team that broke our streak of holding teams under 70. Aaron Williams taps the ball in at the buzzer with, you know, he taps the ball in with like 3 or 4 seconds left, and he's cheering and throwing his hands up, and the crowd is going crazy because they scored 71. And we're looking at each other like, are y'all serious? Like, we just beat you guys by 40, and y'all cheering because y'all broke our record. Like, wow, take our scraps. So our confidence going into the end of the season was so high. We already knew nobody can beat us because not only can they not only can they not stop us from scoring, they also can't score against us. And so that gave us confidence going into the playoffs. I remember playing against Milwaukee in the first round. The first game of the series, we all went out. It was the whole entire team. I mean, it was crazy how it was all 14 of us. We all went out, and we was like a gang going out. Like you'll see about 3 guys from Milwaukee over here or 2 guys over here. Then you'll just see our whole team just standing up on a wall in Milwaukee looking. And we was like, man, as close as we were off the court, we were that close on the court. If the second unit was in the game, you will see the starting 5 up cheering and waving towels. When the first unit was in the game, you would always see the second unit up, cheering. And so we were a family, and that was the first and last time that I've ever played with guys where there was no hidden agenda. There was nothing but just winning as one unit.
Again, visiting with Mike James here on the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast. I am Jamie Horton with you, and this is episode 6, by the way, so we're still very young in this as well as we kind of go through this NBA journey here with Mike James. Played in the league, I guess in total, Mike, about a dozen years, right?
Yeah. You can say that.
Yeah, so roughly about a dozen years in the league, and look, that means you can play, number one. You get a chance to go to the league, you get a chance to stay in the league, you get the chance to play in the league for that long. What'd you say? Eat our scraps? Scrap, man, right? And you got to be so I hear what borough? They ask what borough are you from? Where are you from? I can hear it. So it's Long Island, right?
It's funny because I used to play summer ball in the city all the time, and there was a kid. His name was in the street ball world. They call him Maniac, and he's from Brooklyn, and he plays like a maniac, and he was crazy. But one day we was in the gym playing, and he looked at me, and he was like, "Yo, where you from, B? Like, yo, where you from?" And I looked, and I was like, "I'm from Amityville. I'm from Amityville, Long Island," just like that. And he said, "Say word." He was like, "Man, I thought you was from Brooklyn. The way you act, the way you talk, you just act like you like a Brooklyn cat." I was like, "Nah, I'm a Long Island cat, whatever that means." And so it was just, Long Island isn't a borough, and so we were always on the outside, considered like the lost borough, considered like you guys are from the good neighborhood, So we growing up in poverty, no different than the only difference was they had concrete, we had grass, but it was the same poverty-stricken communities, and the same things was going on, drug infested. Gang banging and selling drugs at an early age. And so trash talking, but the difference was we was in Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, or Manhattan or Staten Island. But at the same time, we had the same fight inside of us. So we went extra hard because we had to prove that we was just as good or better than any kid from the 5 boroughs. And so that was the thing that always gave me my edge was, nah, I may not be a New York City kid, but I'm a New York kid.
Are the best trash talkers in the world come from New York? I mean, I hear Chicago's got some good ones too, but where the best trash talkers come from?
It's funny because you learn first to fight as a kid in New York. Like you fight first, you ask questions later. Because it's interesting to me when I ask a kid now, how many fights have they had when they're growing up? And they're like, "What do you mean? Like, don't nobody do that no more." Like, and so it's like growing up in New York, you got no choice but to fight because they're going to test your manhood, And when you learn as an adult that pride comes before destruction, but as a youth, the only thing that you have to uphold is your name. And if you let somebody discredit or discount that growing up, you know what? Multiple people are going to start doing that and trying to take advantage of you. So the first thing that you learn to uphold is your name. And so pride is something that is extremely, even though you're not supposed to hold on to pride, that's the first thing that you find yourself holding on to as a New Yorker. You're going to be prideful in the way you play your sports. You're going to be prideful in the way somebody talk about you or your family, your name. Everything is a disrespect, and you always got to be ready to fight for it.
And that's look, this is fun. I appreciate you doing this. This is good. I like talking hoops. I like hearing about people's stories, but certainly I think that's a lot, when you talk from the outset, we talked about the lessons we've learned from this quarantine and everything about all those things that you hold on to that you want to keep close. But stories like this make me go, I should never have really been mad about things growing up. There's a lot, no matter what, there's always somebody who's got it different, somebody who's got it worse. But even saying worse, it's always different. Everybody's upbringing, everybody's story is different. Again, visiting Mike James here on the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast is a big treat for me. So, Mike, we go from Boston, we go from Detroit, and then we go to Milwaukee. So let's talk about that. By the way, a lot of all in the East, all in the Eastern Conference, man. Is that just the way it was? It just worked out that way, or?
Yeah, it just worked out that way. I guess they only saw me on the East Coast, and they didn't want to let me get any of that warm weather after Miami. I don't know what that was about.
So 04-05 season, you go to Milwaukee. Let's talk about that journey then for a minute.
That was difficult because I was there and they had Mo Williams there, and this was Mo Williams' second year, and they was really trying to give Mo Williams the starting position, but I was out playing him, and he wasn't ready for that position. But at the same time, who am I? I should be happy that I'm even in the NBA. I didn't get drafted. I didn't come the traditional way. So I'm basically coming through the back door. So when you come in that way and you don't have no hype behind your name, any chance that they can take advantage of you and push you to the side so they can build somebody else up, that has a little bit more hype, that may be able to sell more jerseys based off name brand instead of game brand. Well, I was caught up in that. And so I tore a cartilage in my rib in the preseason, and I can remember being in practice because I knew that if I stopped playing, they was going to just give Mo Williams the starting position, and so I would be in practice and I would go to pass the ball, and the cartilage was separated, so it would like detach and then come back together, and it would almost feel like a sniper was in the gym. It would just like shoot me, and I would drop for like 30 or 45 seconds, and I'll get back up and I'll start playing again, and I'd done this for a few weeks, and finally I made a ridiculous play, tried to pass the ball, turning my body in a weird way, and my cartilage, it broke, it snapped, and it started to heal. It snapped into place like this, and it remained like this, and so I was in so much pain, where the doctor told me that because it's cartilage, it's going to take longer to heal than if it was a broken bone. And they said it's going to take about maybe 4 months, and you might be out for at least 4 months. And I told the doctor, listen, I'm only going to miss 5 games, and I'm back and I'm back playing. He said, listen, Mike, I'm the doctor, you're the basketball player, all right? I'm telling you, I applaud, I applaud how hard you really want to be back, but no, it's not going to happen like that. I missed 5 games. I come back. I got a rib guard on, and I'm playing. To this, every time the doctor saw me, even when I left Milwaukee, he'll bring it up like, listen, that is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life, is how quick you healed from that injury. Like, that's not normal. And I never experienced that in my career. And he would always go out his way to tell me that. And so I come back after the 5 games. I'm playing. I can remember playing in the game, and I was 8 for 11 from the 3-point line with 5 minutes left in the third quarter. And Terry Porter was telling the players, Eric Strickland was on the team. You can ask Eric Strickland about this right here. He told Eric and them, don't pass me the ball. But he didn't sub me out. But the thing is, we was playing against Boston. And so I got like 30. I wind up going like 9 for 14 from the 3-point line because now they're freezing me out in the game. And we beat them by 30. So after the game, this is the post-game speech. After the game, the first thing he says to me is, Mike, what the F is wrong with you? Are you crazy? You out there shooting the ball all crazy? Don't you know we play them next week? And who do you think you are? And I'm like, are you serious right now? Like, okay, what do you mean? I'll do the same thing next week. Like, it's no big deal. But why?
Wait, is this Strick?
Huh?
Who's saying that to you, Strick or?
No, Terry Porter.
Gotcha. Okay.
He was the head coach. And
Gotcha.
so he's ripping into me after having a really good game. And I'm sitting there like, okay, this cannot be normal. So, it was really like, I didn't really feel like they appreciated who I was as a basketball player there. So I asked for a trade. And come to find out, they traded me to Houston. I was excited. I'm playing with T-Mac. I'm playing with Yao. And it's weird because my wife is from Houston, and we was already planning on moving back to Houston. So to be playing in Houston, and now I'm living in Houston, it was just a little ironic. And now the cool thing is, the first day I meet Jeff Van Gundy, Bobby Serra is hurt. So he's on the injured reserve list. And Jeff, so it's for 5 games. So Jeff he calls me in his office and he says, Mike, I know you don't know none of the plays. You just got here. I don't want you to think. I just want you to go out there and just play. I looked at him and was like, wait, what do you mean just go out there and just play basketball with no thought at all? So those first 5 games that I got there, I was averaging 18 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds. We went 3-2. We went 3-2 we was 3-2, and as with me as a starter. And then Jeff calls me in the office. He had Bobby Serra, David Wesley, John Barry. We were all in the office with him. And he says, listen, Mike, you should be happy you even in the league. You're not starting tonight. Bobby Serra is starting tonight, and you should just come off the bench and just be ready to play. And that's the end of the conversation. I said, wait a minute, like, that's it? Like, are you serious? I just had this conversation with this guy. Okay, cool. So we go to the game. We're playing against Phoenix in Phoenix. And I can remember coming in. He subs me in the game with like 4 minutes left in the first quarter. I took 1 shot. He subbed me out. I said, wait a minute, are you serious? This dude went from loving me to hating me in like less than it was the fastest of love-hate relationship I ever seen in my life. And so I was angry. I had like 2 points at halftime. We're down by 20 points against Phoenix. Steve Nash is absolutely killing us. And then at halftime, I'm angry. We come out in the second half. He subs me in the game, like 9 minutes left in the third quarter. I got 22 for the game. We beat Phoenix by 20. This is like the outcome of the game now. And once he put me back in, but that didn't matter. He always had like some type of issues with me and the way I played. He used to always call me cocky, arrogant, and it wasn't really that I was cocky or arrogant. It was just nobody really believed in who I was as a basketball player, but I believed in who I was as a basketball player, and I was always willing to share it with anyone that disagreed with me. And
wait, when you say when you say share it, you meant not only with your words but with your play, right? I mean, like, okay, let me show you what I can do, right? Like, you let your game do the talking too, right?
Of course, but of course, like I've never. I was a barker and a biter, like I'm gonna talk trash, but what I'm telling you is basically forewarning you. Like, I'm not just trash talking to try to get you off my back or try to scare you. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to prep you to let you know what's really about to take place right now, and I want to be the first one to let you know it. And so this was my method behind trash talking is I want to see your A game. And I know that your A game is better than my above average. And so that was the interesting thing. So I'm in Houston. I can remember we're getting ready for the playoffs. This is the year that we lost to Dallas in that 7-game crazy series.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember.
Tim Donahue had a lot to do with that series too. I'm just saying. Just throw that out there.
You know what? And you know what I remember most from that series? There's 2 things I remember. I remember the T-Mac over Sean Bradley, just ferocious. I think that was game 1 because y'all took 2 in Dallas right off the bat.
Yes.
And then was it John Barry who did the rolling the dice thing? Oh my God! I got so mad at him I would just get under my skin so bad. Let's talk about that. Go ahead. I like this. That's fun.
remember, I'm just coming from Detroit the year before. So I have championship all in my mind. I know what it takes to get there. No one on this team really knows what it takes to get there. Everyone thinks that this is just going to be a walk in the cake, especially after we go up 2-0. Now we're calling Ryan Bowen the Dirkinator, and we're basically saying that Ryan Bowen is stopping Dirk, and basically we woke up a sleeping giant. And Dirk averaged like 35, 40 almost in game 3 and 4. So they beat us in game 3 and 4, and then they beat us in game 5. So now we're down 3-2 to them. Going back into Houston, I had 25 this game. Fouled out Dirk. The game is it's ridiculous. We blew them out in game 6. I got 25, and I can remember Dallas trying to press us. And I beat the press, and I get an and one on Dirk, and I'm looking at the crowd, and I'm just like, I'm juiced now. So I'm into the game, and I'm just ooh, and I look at Jeff Van Gundy, and he's over in the corner grabbing his hair like this, like, what the heck are you doing? And so I looked at him. And I said, man, calm your tail down. Not in those words. I probably could have chose my words a little differently. But he looked at me. He said, wait a minute. He scratched his head. He said, time out. He said, so now he takes the time to cuss me out for 30 seconds in game 6 of the playoffs to tell me who the heck do I think I am? Don't you know he can have my butt out the league faster than I got in this league? You ain't nothing. You don't be talking to me like this. And so I turned my back on him. And all I kept saying to myself was, this isn't the regular season. This is the playoffs right now. I can't believe this is happening. I said, Mike, focus on hitting this free throw. If he don't want to think about winning the game, I'm thinking about it. And so maybe I should choose my words differently and not challenge the head coach. I should have thought about that in the time, but at the same time, all I'm thinking about is winning. And if he felt like I disrespected him in any type of way, that should have been something that should have been handled afterwards, when the game is over and we in the locker room and he basically good win, guys, tonight. Mike, you start some crap like that again, I promise you it's going to be a problem. But overall, you know what? Let's get ready for game 7 of the playoffs, not regular season. I can understand if I did this, in game 33.
I don't remember what happened in game 7, though. You refresh me?
Huh?
I don't remember what happened in game 7, though.
My goodness. The hard part about that is I asked Jeff, and he didn't appreciate me asking him this question, but Bobby Sura was injured. And I asked him, I said, if you knew Bobby Sura was injured and you knew how I've been playing this whole series going into game 7, when you want your best guns to start off and when you want your best players to put you in a position of success, why wouldn't you start me in game 7? And he looked at me and was like, yo, that's for me, and don't ask me no questions like that. I was like, my bad, dog. Okay, you know what? I thought we had this kind of relationship, but obviously I guess not.
I remember that game.
Yeah, oh my goodness, it was the worst. It was the worst feeling, and that was the first time I got kicked out the game, and it was one of the worst. They kicked me out the game in the third quarter with 8 minutes, 7 minutes, something crazy, But that series wasn't stop T-Mac and stop Yao Ming. It was stop Mike James, and we win this series. And the one thing that series did for me was gain me so much confidence that after that series, I was like, wow, I am a really good basketball player. You know what? I am about to be the best basketball player at the guard position, and I'm going to dominate every guard that I go against from now on. I remember calling Chauncey. They were playing against San Antonio, and San Antonio was up 2-0 in the series, and Tony Parker is practically having his way with them. And I remember calling Chauncey man, what you guys doing, man? How y'all letting Tony Parker, have his way with y'all? I said, listen, for the remainder of my career, I'm dominating the point guard position. I said, I don't care. My confidence is so high, I truly don't believe nobody can stay in front of me and nobody can guard me, and I can lock up any guard. And I'm the first one to just let you know, if y'all don't do nothing this year, Houston is definitely going to win the championship next year. And so that's where my mindset was. So that whole summer, I was playing in the Rucker. I was playing in every league. I was playing in against every guard, and every guard that I played against, I destroyed. And I had a mindset of there will not be another guard that will be able to stay in front of me. And so coming into that next season, what I did in Toronto, I already planned to do in Houston. This is what I believed what I was supposed to have been doing in Houston. I would go when we used to have practice in Houston every single morning. I would walk through the tunnel. I wouldn't take the stairs on purpose, to the practice court. I would take the elevator so I can walk through the tunnel, and I would look at all the retired jerseys that would be on the Houston that would be on the wall, and I would always look at a place where my jersey would be retired. And I used to always say every single morning, my jersey gonna be retired here. And so this was my comp. This was where my mind was. So when I got traded to Toronto, it was like that was the first time I ever got traded and my heart was broke. That was the first time I was like, wait a minute, like, are you serious? Like, I'm thinking this is going to be my home and I'm about to dominate these guys at this position. I remember being at Tracy McGrady's house, and I told him, I said, Mac, listen, the All-Star game is going to be in Houston next season. I said, y'all getting all the Chinese votes. I said, you getting all the votes. I said, man, listen, I ain't trying to be Batman. I ain't trying to be Robin. But I said, man, I'm trying to dominate the point guard position for the remainder of my career. I said, help me become an All-Star. He looked at me and laughed. I was dead serious. But at the same time, this is where my mind was. My mind wasn't on, like, even though I came into the league through the back door, everybody, I'm going to be a household name in this game. I brought a jacket. I bought a jacket. It was a Muhammad Ali jacket that said greatest of all time. And I would never wear the jacket because I wasn't greatest of all times. And one of the most disappointing things to me individually in my career was the fact that I never got an opportunity to showcase who I was to the point where I got a chance to wear that jacket in confidence. And so I remember looking at that jacket and thinking, like, man, I never got the chance to be able to, give myself the opportunity, whether or not could I become that. And so what I thought of me and what everybody else thought was practically two different pages. And, getting traded to Toronto, I remember being in the car, driving my daughter. I was taking my daughter to school that morning. And Jeff Van Gundy called me. I'm getting ready. We just had media day the day before. I'm getting ready to go to practice the next day. I'm ready to dominate. I'm ready to really ball out. And he calls me and he's like, Mike, you got traded. I said, what? Traded? What do you mean traded? I said, to where? He said, Toronto. I said, Toronto? I said, for who? He said, Rafer Alston. I said, Rafer? And who else? Like, I know you didn't just trade me straight up 1-for-1 for no Rafer Alston. Like, are you serious right now? You supposed to have gave me, like, it's supposed to be like 3 names and a draft pick in that trade. And so I remember driving to school and I started crying. It bothered me because I said, man, I never can get an opportunity or a chance. I said, why nobody really give me a chance? I said, why am I always overlooked? And why what I look like is not really what it really is? And so I started crying. And my daughter, she was 2 years old at the time. She said, daddy's a crybaby. Daddy's a crybaby, daddy's a crybaby. And it was almost like she was looking at me like, boy, if you don't go to Toronto and go handle your business and quit being a little chump, like, whatever. So what they don't love you? So what? You take from this game what you can and don't worry about what's taken from you in this game. And in that mind, it's like I almost like woke up. I looked at her with like this weird look on me, taking it more than just her mocking me right now, but her really in her way telling me like, man, listen, let's just go to Toronto. Let's go handle our business. Suck it up.
Hey, if you can hear me, Mike, I lost your audio. I don't know if you can still hear me, but I lost your audio. Man, we'll get it back. We're going to get him back, though. Mike James visiting with us here on the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast. He's working on getting his audio back. I see him in the screen. Let me see if I can get you, if I got your audio. Talk to me. Oh, no. Well, I hope we didn't lose that. We're here, though. I'm still here. I can still see you. Everybody can still see you. I just can't hear you. No more audio. Uh-oh. Still don't have your audio. You want to come back? Like, let me kill your feed and then come back on that same link? You want to try that? Can you hear me? No, you can't hear me. All right. This what we're gonna do is we're gonna try and figure out if we can do like a two-parter here. If Mike can still hear me, I know you guys are still watching and listening. And this is all those years in radio coming back to me here in order to try and save this from not having any dead air, as we call it. This is the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast in the middle of a fantastic one with Mike James visiting with us here, who has spent a long time in the league, and he's going to try and come back in here in just a moment. But again, visiting with Mike James, EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast. I want to encourage you guys to go and check out our website, eplaybasketball.com. Learn about a little bit more about us and what it means, what Numbers Tell Your Story actually means. We got Mike back with us. Hopefully I can hear him this time. Mike, I got you back?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Man. All right. Let's pick up right where you left off, man. No worries. We're still on.
No, so, going to Toronto, I remember playing against Houston, the first game that we played against Houston in Toronto, so I have all kind of emotions going on inside my head. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, man, Mike, just let the game come to you. Don't try to go out there all crazy. I know you want to show them, like, look what they gave up on. Like, I can't believe y'all gave me up for Rafa. And I'm so eager to want to show them. So I'm not really doing much in the game. I get subbed out in the first quarter. And I can remember Sam Mitchell subs me back in like the first quarter with like 3 minutes left in the first quarter. And I'm sitting on the scores table, just minding my business. And then Juwan Howard looks at me and he's like, and he started calling me a lot of names. And I'm sitting there like, wait a minute. We know each other. Like, you my boy. I look up to you. Where did you get this information that you're calling me? That's not true about who I am. So now I'm angry. And I'm like, okay, like, man, let's play now. So I hit Rafa with a move. I go to the basket. I get an and one. And I shouldn't probably say what I probably said. I probably put myself in a lot of predicaments based off my own mouth. But I said, and one B. And he said, what did you say? I said, and one B. And so he walked up on me. First of all, I shouldn't have let him walk up on me, but he mushed the ball in my face. And when he mushed the ball in my face, I was so angry. And my feelings was hurt. And the first thing I thought to myself was, this is going to be on Sports Center tomorrow. I said, ooh, and so I am so mad right now. And all I'm thinking about doing is spitting my gum in his face. Like, that's the only thing I could think of as for revenge. And I'm about to do it. And then I just said, nope, I'm going to take it out on the team. And when I say I totally, I was dribbling the ball up the court on Rafa. I would hit a three and look at Jeff Van Gundy. I hit a three in the corner and look towards the bench and be like, if any one of y'all think that y'all going to finish what he started, well, then y'all bring it. Like, I'm just going crazy right now with this game. We blew Houston out. I had like 35, but it was such a feel-good moment for me because, it's like everyone – like, the crazy thing is, after that season, probably the most hurtful moment that I think that I've had in my career is when Jeff Van Gundy came to my house at 11:59 at night to try to re-sign me back to the Rockets that following season. That was probably one of my, most hurtful moments because here it is, you had me at hello. And you had me, I'll do anything for you. I'll run through a brick wall. And then you tell me I'm an arrogant, cocky SOB and it ain't nothing special about me. And then you go watch me still perform at a higher level, still talking the same amount of trash, still not backing down from nobody. Really, like, you know what? Maybe this kid really is this arrogant, cocky SOB that I like. That it's not that I'm doing this to pertain as trying to be an individual, but I'm trying to show you if we're Voltron and we're gonna form like Voltron, I'm gonna be the sword. You know what I mean? Like, don't trip. Like, I'm gonna do my part, and I'm gonna slice like I'm gonna slice through whatever I need to slice through. But I'm just gonna play my role. But I'm gonna play my role really, really well, and I'm gonna be a really good team player. And it took you to be away from me in order for you to see who I really am as an athlete. And I remember taking a walk with my wife like 11:30 that night. Like, man, Jeff coming over at 12 to try to convince me to come back to Houston. And I'm just like, that sucks to me because, you know, you didn't really care about how you just, you know, just had a brain fart in the middle of the night and said, I'm going to trade Mike tomorrow, you know, and you didn't care about my family. You didn't care about picking me up and making and what I got to do to get myself, you know, build. You didn't care about none of those things. But here it is, because you at my house at 11:59 now, I'm supposed to jump at it again. Like, and so I asked for a trade clause, you know, in my contract. Like, if you guys trade me, you're gonna pay me again. You know, you guys should pay me. I think that I deserve that. If you want me to sign back with y'all, I'll sign for less money, but I want a trade clause. And they was adamant about not giving me a trade clause. They was adamant about saying, whatever, that is a deal breaker. We are not going to do it. So I'm thinking to myself, man, what, y'all going to trade me again? Like, y'all just got me for bait for the future. And so, you know, that was the main reason why I didn't sign back with Houston. But then everyone that following year was like, oh, yeah, I see you get your money. Yeah, you made a decision for your money. And I'm like, what is wrong with people? There is no honor amongst thieves in this game in the game of sports, period. You got to protect your future. You got to protect your present and your future. You know, a coach will throw you under the bus to save their job, but yet they want you to be able to handle the hard road with the wheels with the wheels running you over while they're throwing you under the bus. They want you to still protect them, but at the same time they won't protect you. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, you don't want to protect me, but you know, you'll sit there and make me feel like I'm the bad guy because there's something I believe if you're going to trade me, you're going to pay me for the trade because I'm tired of giving the effort and then you really don't know what you have until it's gone and then you want it back. So it's like, nah, if you're gonna break up with me, you know what? I think that you should pay for it.
You know
And
what?
they
As a fan, and a guy who's been in the media a little bit and stuff, that's always been a thing in that space, right? The fans, oh, he went to go get his. First of all, let me tell you this: if I was a professional athlete, if I had that kind of ability to make money playing sports, that kind of money, you better believe that if somebody, that's a once in a lifetime opportunity. That's life changing, life altering money.
And it's short lived.
It's short lived. Exactly. Go get it. Go get the bag.
And you don't know if they're going to honor you when your career is over. You don't know if they're going to say, you know what, for your services that you've done for us, well, this is what we're going to do for you. And that happens on a small scale, you know. And so, and because of that, that got me back to. So I went to Minnesota. Probably one of the worst decisions I ever made in my basketball. This is where my career was going like this. And Minnesota was where my career started doing this right here. Like, it was like the roller coaster ride was on the down slope now. And I didn't look back after Minnesota. But at the same time, it had nothing to do with the game. It had everything to do with my personality and who I am. By the way I carry myself, there's a certain confidence and an aura and that I carry on my own personal, and I think highly. And it doesn't matter. I'm not a conceited or arrogant or a narcissist, but at the same time, I'm highly confident in who I believe, who God has called me to believe, who God called me to be. And if God is a king and I'm supposed to be a child of his, that means obviously I'm a king's kid. So I walk with that. I walk with that confidence and I walk in that belief. And a lot of people don't like that. And they feel like you're challenging them. And I'm not the type of person that's going to bow down or back down to anyone. So that year became more about the my personality, who I had to fight not for a basketball, but I had to fight for my personality, my toughness, my name, who I think I am. And at the same time, there's no one, there's no place I've ever been in my career where I've never my whole entire career, I played with a lot of professionals, played with a lot of gangsters, played with a lot of really good ball players. I've never been slapped. I've never been disrespected. I've never been spit on. I've never been talked crazy to my face my whole career. And that shows that there's something about me that people see inside me that they say, you know what, we really don't want to get that started in Mike. We like him, we mock him when he laughing, and we don't want him when he angry. And so it was weird there. I had a bald spot in my chin. The hair in my chin stopped growing when I was in Toronto. The president of the team, in Minnesota, the president of the team traded me while the playoffs was still going on. I got traded back to Houston while it was like the first round of the playoffs still. Like, I don't even know too many trades that happened during the playoff series. And the owner, he says to me, Mike, I apologize for what you had to experience this year. I apologize for what you went through. And the one thing that they could say about me more than anything else is he not going to back down from nothing or no one. And even the people that tried to challenge me to this day, if they see me, they know my integrity and they know my character is 100%. And so it was weird. So I signed back with Houston. And now I'm back in Houston. I'm happy. Yay, I'm back in Houston. But now Jeff Van Gundy's fired. Rick Adelman is there. And we just signed Aaron Brooks as a rookie. Steve Francis, who was Mr. Houston, you know what I mean? He just signs back to Houston. Rayful Alston is still in Houston. So Luther Head is in Houston. So we had about 5 or 6 guards, you know what I mean, that were all really good guards, but fighting for position. And Rick Adelman is trying to find the right, group that's going to help him have success. And so he'll play 2 guys, or if you don't have a good game, you're not seeing the court for the next maybe 4 or 5 games. And we're going to see what one of these young guys is going to do. And then Aaron Brooks goes to the D League and he's averaging like 30. So now they're saying, oh, we got to get Aaron Brooks some minutes. So I got caught up in, I was caught up in the numbers. And it was weird because I would be in the game and they screaming for Steve Francis because Francis was he was a great player in Houston in the past. So they'll be like, we want Steve, and here it is.
Stevie
I'm
franchise,
shooting a jump shot,
right?
trying to make a shot, and I'm sitting there trying. I gotta fight this now. Like, they're not even screaming. Like, they're not even cheering about me scoring. They cheering about Steve not playing. I said, this is some bull crap. So so I get traded to New Orleans, and my first year there playing under I was really impressed. I really got to see Chris Paul up close, and I got to be really impressed with, his game as a point guard. And he became one of my favorite guards in the NBA based off of watching him more and playing against him in practice. We used to be in practice. I really didn't play much that first year, and we'll be in practice. And I would tell CP, like, game day, he would play like maybe 40 plus minutes. And so I wouldn't play it all, get a DNP, but I would be like, we got practice tomorrow. And Byron Scott, he would scrimmage. What we would do for practice is we'll probably have like 2 12-minute quarters where we would just scrimmage as a game, and the loser got to run, maybe some sprints or suicides. So I would tell CP, man, tomorrow I'm trying to give you 30. So I used to average like 30 in practice, but Byron Scott would never play me. And then I came back that following year, and I was in the same position, not really getting an opportunity or a chance to play, but in practice, I was the only guy that was on the team that was able to guard Chris Paul and was able to, stay in front of him and challenge him. But then I wouldn't play when it was game time. And it used to be so confusing to me, but this is basically how that was. And I remember we had a Christmas tournament. We had a Christmas party with all the sponsors, and I'm there with Byron Scott, and I'm like, Coach, I don't understand. Here it is around Christmas time, and I'm still not playing, but yet I'm one of your better players other than Chris Paul at the point guard position, and you're not even playing me. And then he gave me the generic answer, Mike, if you keep playing hard and you keep practicing hard, we're going to find some minutes for you. I said, listen, Coach, if you don't have no room for me, and you don't believe that I can help this team, I would rather you trade me. He was like, well, this is what you want? Is this what you want? I said, nah, I love it here in New Orleans. I believe we're a family here, but I want to play, man. I don't think that you really believe that I'm part of your system. So if that's the case, I would rather you trade me. So they traded me to Washington, and Washington, like I said, like the downhill slope that was starting to happen, Washington was probably like okay, my career is over. And, I was still young. I still had a lot of game inside of me, but it was just bad. It was bad the way things were being handled, how the players were really running the facility, how I think that, everybody was just crazy. This was like during the years of the gun stuff with Gilbert, and this was how that place was. And so
I gotta stop. I gotta ask, because that as soon as you started talking about this, I remember this. I remember your time in Washington. I will say this also. I always associate you with the Rockets, even though you played on several NBA teams, because I'm a Mavs guy. I grew up in the area. I've been a Mavs homer my whole life. But that series in, what was that, 04, 05, was, no offense, I hated all you guys at the time, because there was that, y'all had it, look, that squad, that was a stacked Houston Rockets team. And I've always said this, and our mutual friend John Cho have talked about this. If Yao Ming had a different body, that didn't let him down, man, that whole team was unbelievable. You guys were really stacked. But this Gilbert Arenas stuff, I gotta have a little small Gilbert story.
I'll say this: if Houston wouldn't have traded me, we wouldn't have lost to Utah Jazz, and Deron Williams wouldn't have had as great of a series that he had against Houston Rockets that year when they lost, and they should have won that following year. I think that was a big difference. And I also think that Detroit would have won back-to-back championships and would have beat San Antonio, because for some reason, I kind of love playing against Tony Parker. And it goes back from when I played against him overseas in France. And I knew who he was, and he knew who I was even before we played against each other in the NBA. And I outplayed him then. And so I think a lot of things would have changed if people would have given, if they wouldn't have thought that anybody can do what Mike James can do.
Guys, quick, straight ahead, quick guards. I always like, even Devin Harris. I know Devin Harris gave Tony Parker hell at one time, like when Devin first came in the league, and they had that Mavs Spurs series. I guess that would have been 06. Yeah, that would have been the 06 before the Mavs got. I don't want to go there because the officials in the Miami Heat, and I don't want to talk about it, Mike. Still too soon. It's still too soon. But those guys like you,
he was out the league. He was out the league by then.
guys like you with the quick guards with good handles, man. They gave. I always thought they gave Tony trouble, especially when they could get him going backwards. But this is so much fun, Mike. I appreciate you doing this. So let's talk about that. So we go from Minnesota, and again, I always associate you with the Houston Rockets. Washington, Gilbert Arenas, phenomenal player, by the way. I hate that all that other kind of stuff sort of overshadowed what he was as a basketball player, because he had a few years there where he was one of the best in the league.
Of course.
I got to have a little bit of a Gilbert Arenas story. You got to tell me something, man. That's crazy stuff going on in Washington at this time, and you were a part of it. Let me hear about it.
I mean, you know what? I really didn't spend too much time. Funniest story that I have when I was in Washington, you know, I can remember we playing against Phoenix. We lost the game the night before. We have a back-to-back against Phoenix, and and I'm really tired. We get in about 2 o'clock in the morning. I tell the bellman. Normally, I double latch my lock. I tell the bellman, man, just come in my room, just drop my bags, like I'm gonna be asleep. And so next thing you know, I finally go to sleep about maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. And as I'm going to sleep, the next thing you know, I feel like a silhouette hovering over top of me. And I freak out because nobody's supposed to be in my room right now. So I'm like, ah, ah. So I freak out. So here it is, Andre Blatch, Nick Young, all JaVale McGee, all these guys is running down the hall laughing. You know, they up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Like it was mayhem there. And so the next day, I can't go back to sleep now. I'm angry as I don't know what. All I keep thinking to myself is I'm gonna kill one of them. But I'm like, no, Mike, you can't kill them because now you're gonna have a case against you. So I'm like, okay, if I let them get away with this, then they're gonna do it again. So I said, okay, no, I'm gonna get them. I got to get them back. So the next morning, I don't sleep at all. So the next morning, we have like a breakfast meeting and I go down there and I put my hand in their food and I tell them, yo, I'm telling y'all, I'm going to get y'all. None of y'all are safe. And they laughing. They telling everybody about what happened and how Mike was, ah. So I said, okay, I'm going to show y'all how much I got inside me. So I caught Andre. I had a pen in my hand, mind you. I was going to get him because Andre Blatch is like 6'8", 260. So I'm thinking, I don't want to hurt him, but I want to hurt him. I want to prove a point. So I get him in an elevator. And I'm trying to like stab him with the pen now. And then all of a sudden he's looking at me like, Mike, what the heck is wrong with you? Like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to like take it to this point. It was just a joke. So now I finally stab him in his hand. So now the pen breaks in his hand. His hand is like an open wound right now. And Nick Young is trying to grab on me and I'm not even thinking about Nick. So they trying to like double team me. So, okay, it's squashed. The coaches get a hold of it. They like, Mike, you know what? You too old for this. You need to stop acting like this. And next thing you know, we getting ready for the game. It's like 60 minutes. It's 60 minutes on the clock now. We getting ready for the game. And Nick Young comes up to me and he says, Mike, you broke my headphones. I said, Nick, listen, don't say another word to me. You say another word to me, I promise you it's going to be a problem. He said, Mike, so I jumped up and I slammed him and I put my thumb in his neck and I was holding him down with one finger, basically trying to explain to him, like, I would crush you. Like, here it is, I'm holding, and I felt my thumb getting deeper and deeper into his neck. So I let my finger go. And then he gets up with tears in his eyes. And he's like, and I'm like, man, however you feel, you can move him right now. So he don't say nothing. So I'm like, man, get ready for the game. So we in the game now, and it's like a pivotal point in the game. It's like the fourth quarter, and I throw Andre Blatch a pass that he should have caught, but it hit his hand and it went out of bounds, and it was a turnover on me. And I'm like, yo, Dre, what are you doing? He was like, man, you hit me in the hand that you stabbed me with that pin in earlier. I said, well, you shouldn't have came in my room. I apologize. He said, okay, I apologize for coming to your room. I said, don't do it again. He said, okay, my bad on the pass also. I should have caught it. Like, it was like, so.
So that it's over at that point. That's it. That's it.
Yeah, it's over with. But at the same time, even with Gil was more like a practical jokester. I think that's the problem with those guys is it was a group of guys that really just wasn't bad attitudes, wasn't bad people. They was just practical jokesters. And most of the time, NBA is a man's game. So there's a group that don't really like to play practical jokes, you know, and them guys were real jokesters. So that didn't mix And then you don't have a front office that's laying an order. And if there's no order, and then you have practical jokesters that can do is basically whatever they want and say whatever they want, well, then you become the outcast and you become the one that needs to lighten up. And I think that, that was the problem with Washington. Even though they had so much talent and so much skill, it was outweighed by the fact of the immaturity. And I think that was Gil's biggest issue, even as a professional athlete, is not his talent, but his immaturity.
Again, visiting with Mike James here on the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast. I'm having a blast. How much time you got left? Because there's a couple things I know we're going long, but I could talk hoops all day. Because there's a few things I obviously want to touch on. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Kobe, and I would also be remiss if I didn't mention kind of this the Last Dance documentary, because as a fan, there's been some things I get on social media. Mike, we all do. The young kids just don't get it. And I have become officially that old guy now, who I was the young kid one time talking about modern day athletes and how you can't compare older generations and blah, blah, blah. And now I'm that guy that is sitting here getting mad at these young guys. They've only seen LeBron their entire lives and watched, grow up watching just one guy, where I got to see MJ, I got to see the late 80s, I got to see Magic and Larry and the Bad Boy Pistons, and kind of watch the sort of formation of the modern day NBA. But anyway, how much time do you got? A little bit longer? Can we talk a little bit?
Yes, I got a little bit longer.
Awesome. You're after the Washington time there in DC. You'd mentioned, you said, well, this was kind of, maybe this would be the end of my career. After that, you're out of league. You have to go play overseas again. So you go, and I believe China? Was it China's the first one right after Washington? Yes. So you go back overseas, because obviously you still want to play ball. You still want to play in this league. You still want to play basketball. I guess you were out of the league for a couple of years, right? So let's talk about those 2 years from Washington until you come back into the NBA, and what that was like, and how you sort of stayed motivated.
I mean, it was tough. It was tough because, it was nothing that it should have stopped me from being in the league. But at the same time, they always used my age against me. I was old when I got into the NBA. I was 27, almost 28 years old as a rookie. And so I was always older. And now what they've always was able to use against me is, well, Mike, your date of birth is this. And because your date of birth is this, you're too old for this game and for our game now. This is a young man's game, and you're outdated. Basically, what the league was trying to tell me. And I'm sitting there like, what do you mean? Like, I'm still killing everybody that I'm stepping in front of. And the thing that evaluated my game was, even when I got older, I remember, it's weird to me. I remember Damon Stoudemire used to come to John Lucas' gym all the time. And, this was towards the end of his career. And I got angry because he was trying to make a comeback. And all I kept thinking to myself is, you can't have this no more. Like, you outdated. Like, I'm not going to allow you to even think that you can even play on the same playing field as me no longer. So I remember playing against them in like the Fondy Summer League. I had like 55 against them, and it was personal. Because basically what I was saying was, you too old, and you better not, how dare you be able to think that you can come step in front of me based off of who you was and not who you are right now. And so I didn't see Damon in the gym no more. After I gave him 55, he stopped coming to Fondy. He stopped coming to Lucas workouts in the morning, and he stopped training, and he went into coaching. I basically started saying, like, I retired him. Like, I made him think, like, man, like, Mike did this to me, like, I'm done. Like, it's obviously I'm done. I don't have the competition, that thrill no more. So fast forward, that's what I was looking for to end me towards the end of my career. I was always looking for that kid that was going to show me that I'm outdated and that I'm too old and that I don't need to play this game no more. So I used to go to Lucas purposely at the end of my career, always looking for one of these young kids to tell me that I no longer can play this game because I can't keep up. But I would still dominate Coach Lucas workouts. And I was still the best player in Coach Lucas workouts. And whatever guard that coach would bring in from out of town, you know, who's supposed to be the next projected player, he would always put whoever's supposed to be the best player or the toughest player against me. And it was almost like him trying to prove a point, like, Mike, you washed. And here it is. I would have this kid underneath me at the end of the workouts trying to figure out how the heck can you still do what you're doing at your age, and how is it that it's still working? And it seems so simple. And so this was the thing that motivated me to make me say, man, I can still play basketball. Because not only can I go through a Coach Lucas workout, I'm going through a Coach Lucas workout every single day, and I'm the best player in the gym every single day. And so that's letting me know right there, man, I can still play. You know what I mean? And I can still play at a high level, because a Coach Lucas workout isn't an easy task. You know what I mean? It's not like that's something that's easy. Only people that can handle it are people that are trying to get to another level in their game. And so he's going to challenge and test you physically and also mentally. And most pro athletes, especially at an older, especially when their bodies get older, they can't even go through Coach Lucas every single day. So I was able to do that, and that's what was giving me my confidence to say. And everybody's like, yo, you old. But I'm like, man, you don't know what I'm doing to prepare myself. You don't understand, even though I'm old, like, you don't understand that I'm playing the best basketball that I'm playing now in my career. I can remember going to Chicago, and I blew my butt cheek muscle. Like, this is, my career is over. Like, you know, like, I'm thinking to myself, like, they got me on like these 10-day contracts or whatever. I'm in the D League, and I blew my butt cheek muscle. And yeah, like how do you do that? Like, who does that? You know what I mean? And so,
How bad that hurts. That sounds painful,
oh my goodness,
man.
I couldn't even lift my leg to walk. I had to drag my leg, and then I was working with a track coach. I was working with a guy that ran in the Olympics, and he was a track coach, but he introduced me to his coach. And he was like, I got somebody that can fix you, but it's going to hurt. And I'm like, man, I don't care. You know, I need to see him. Mind you, I was in Chicago, and they was about to re-sign me, and they cut me because I couldn't even move in practice. Like, I blew my butt cheek out, and all we was doing was 5-on-0 drills, and I couldn't even go through the 5-on-0 drills. And they were supposed to re-sign me that day, but they looking at me like I done got a slow leak or something. And so they cut me. And so I'm home now. And all I'm thinking is, you know what? My career is over with. I'm not going to, you know, there's no point in me trying to play. I'm 37. I think I'm 36 years old, about to be 37 that summer. So I start working out with this trainer. Mind you, it was the most excruciating pain I've ever felt in my life. He said to me, yeah, I can fix it, but it's going to hurt. I said, man, please, I've felt pain before. He stuck his elbow in my butt, and it came out the front of, I could feel like a pulse coming out out the front of my leg. But when he finished, I was able to walk. And I said, wait a minute, that pain was way too much, but why am I able to walk? Then he said, jog. And I was able to jog a little bit. So I started working with this professional track coach, and I started building my legs stronger than I've ever built my legs, to the point where I was getting muscles in my legs that I've never seen, that I'll run to him like, yo, what's this? He like, oh, that's what this muscle is called, like a fast twitch muscle in your leg that you're finally getting. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm 37 years old, and I am faster than I've ever been in my whole entire career. Like, I'm getting the ball up the court in like 3 seconds. I'm running 6 minute and 4. I'm running a 6:40 a mile. Like, I'm talking about, he taught me how to run. He had my legs. I went from, I'm a leg extension, 200 pounds, leg squatting. Everything started becoming bottom rack. I remember the first time that I lifted with him. We was on this, he told me to do a single leg squat. He put 5 45 plates on each side. And he said single leg squats. I said, I'm not doing that. I said, you crazy. I looked at him and laughed like, man, I'm not doing that weight right there. That is way too much weight for me, all right? Like, I am a basketball player. I don't need to do that much weight. One of the track guys, he had slacks on and shoes. He looked at me. He said, what are you complaining about? He went and sat down and just started throwing the weight up so easy and so fast. I looked and said, that's light? Like, are you serious? So I had to train, even in my mind, what I thought was heavy before. I had to train and tell myself, like, what I thought was heavy before is absolutely nothing. And it helped me realize I wasn't even training or working out. Like, what was I doing when I played? Like, I didn't even lift weights based off of learning how to lift like a track athlete and getting my legs stronger than they've ever been in its life. So coming back that next year, you know, Chicago doesn't give me an opportunity. I'm in the D League again that next year. Then Dallas signs me. You know, Dallas signs me to like a for the remainder of the season. Now I'm 38 years old. I'm the fastest I've ever been in my life. I'm getting the ball. If you pick me up full court, I've been working out with this track coach for the last like 6-7 months. All I'm thinking is get the ball up the court as fast as I can in 2 and 3 dribbles or less. So I'm turbo booster in my legs now. And I remember being in Dallas. Darren Collison was the point guard. They were in last place. I just got there, and all I kept thinking to myself was, in about another 2 weeks, I'm going to have this starting position. And Rick Carlisle, I would be in training, and I'll be training before the game and doing like my little routine. He would come up to me, and he'll be like, Mike, okay, you won, all right? You're going to play tonight. Will you please stop working so hard trying to impress me? And I made the statement to him, listen, coach, don't judge my age, judge my game. Please don't judge me based off of my date of birth. Judge me based off of what you see me doing on the court. This is how I prepare for a game. So please leave me alone and just let me prepare. And the one thing that they could not stand was having an old guard in Dallas. You know, they could not stand having a guard at 38 years old, you know, running a team. And so I remember playing against Damian Lillard that year. It was the end of the year. We played against the Lakers. We lost. And we played against Portland. And I can remember I'm trash talking to Damian Lillard. I run up to Damian Lillard, and this was like his second year in the NBA. And I made the statement to him, man, I heard you was pretty good. Yo, you going to sit there and let an old guy outplay you tonight, man? I guess you should be able to bust my tail tonight. And he's looking at me, and he's looking at me like, yo, what are you doing? Like, get away from me. So every time he would try to make a move, I'll be like, my man ain't scoring. My man ain't scoring tonight. I ain't going for none of those moves. So, you know, it was halftime. We up by like 15 points. I got like 12 points, like 6 assists. He got like 4 points, you know, and he's not having a good game. So at halftime, they get the ball to start the third quarter. I run out of the huddle, and I run up on him and was like, hey, you thought this old guy was going to pick you up at half court to start the second half, didn't you? I said, he's just looking at me like, man, will you leave me alone? We blew them out. But that year, I got votes. I got a few votes from coaches for first team all defensive team. You know, they gave me some votes for first team all defensive team when I was in Dallas, 38 years old in the NBA. So, you know, it was difficult because I'm still playing at a high level, but I'm an old guy. And they can't really put the two together. And they're basically saying that I can't keep this up. Eventually, I'm going to fold. Eventually, I'm going to break down. And it's no real point in looking at me as an asset. I'm more of a liability because of my DOB. So Dallas don't even mess with me no more. They like, we don't even want a person that's born in the 70s playing point guard for us no more.
But see, and that's not too far removed from Jason Kidd being there, right? They just won a championship a couple years before. See, I remember this before we got on. I remember talking to you about this. because Dallas, right after the championship, was in this perpetual state of, well, let's just see if we can add a piece, fill in some gaps, and still compete so that we can shoot for big free agency in the next year or two or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a game, and the Mavs were. It was towards the end of the year, and the Mavs, you guys were fighting for a playoff spot. I think Dirk was out this game. I think Dirk had been nursing a foot or something at the time. Dirk at this point was starting to break down. His legs, his knees, his lower body was betraying him. And it was OKC and the Mavs, and it was Durant, Westbrook, and that squad. And you had a monster game. I think they beat us in overtime, which almost assuredly knocked us out of the playoffs or made it that much more difficult to get there. But I remember that game, and I think you shot the lights out. You shot the ball like crazy that game, and I was at that game, and I remember that thinking, Mike James is my guy now. This is my guy. This is my guy. That's how it happens as fans. We have those games you remember, and I'm like, yeah, Mike James is my guy. I like him now. I can forgive those, from 10 years ago. I can forgive those Rockets days.
I got up for those guys. I got up for the guys that I'm not supposed to be able to compete against. I'm not supposed to be on the same page as a Russell Westbrook. I'm not supposed to be on the same playing floor as a Derrick Rose. I'm not supposed to be able to hold these guys' shoes based off of what the media says and based off of, the analytics of what I'm doing in my career and what they're doing in their career. They're supposed to be able to dominate me. But now that's just words of mouth. Now it comes down to skill, heart, tenacity. All these things have to be mixed into the pot. And the one thing that I could never let a person do was outwill me. Even if they was better than me, eventually my will to win was more important than the embarrassment or the fear of who they were. And I'm like Pat Riley told me in the beginning of my career, the way you respect a player is by not respecting them at all. And so the way I can respect Russell Westbrook is still by picking him up 94 feet. It's still by bumping him when he going to talk to his coach. It's still by letting him know, I love your game. You probably one of the greatest athletes, to play the game. But at the same time, you competing against me. My job is to outplay you.
He's one of those okay, I'm not gonna go there. Right? I love Russ. He's one of those guys. If he plays on your team, you love him. If he's not on your team, I don't. As a fan, right? So if he plays on my team, I love him. I got him. I got his back. When people say ugly things, but he's never been on my team, so I got an issue with Russ, man. He seems like one of these guys.
That's like Reggie Evans to me.
I remember Reggie Evans.
That I absolutely hated. But I would love to have played with him.
Those guys, that's their specialty. There's guys who just do it. They get under your skin. You were like that. Darrell Armstrong. But Darrell Armstrong was a guy that did it by playing harder than you. People got pissed off at him, not because he was a talker, but because he always had his hands everywhere. I mean, he just was that kind of guy.
Hated him. Will you stop touching me? Get away from me.
A gnat.
Get the raid.
Yeah, ugly the game up a little bit, man. That was... Yeah. I enjoyed your time with the Mavs. It was short-lived. I think you only with the Mavs 50 games or something that year, but it was memorable because again, the Mavericks changed faces basically every year after that championship team, aside from Dirk. What was it like playing with Dirk? Even for a short period?
He's just a natural born scorer. You know what I mean? I never saw no one that has to be so big and have such a soft touch. It's almost his shot looks like it's going to be short every single time. I always think he's going to shoot an air ball or it's short, and it doesn't touch nothing. You know what I mean? And it's amazing how he's able to get that shot. And no matter what you do while he's down here and dribbling the ball, all he has to do is get the ball in his pocket. And when he get the ball in his pocket, 9 out of 10 times it's a bucket. And that's not normal. And that was probably one of the most impressive things about him was the fact of how much of a sharpshooter he really was.
What kind of teammate was he? You always hear great stories about him as a teammate.
He's great. He's great. He's not arrogant. He's not a narcissist. He's easy. He's going to hang out with the guys, don't do much. But at the same time, he's always willing. You're just a bad teammate. You're not willing to share moments with the guys. if you're always isolated and the team is over here and you're always in the back of the plane or you're in the back of the bus and don't talk to me, that's when you know you're a nuisance or you're a problem as a teammate. But even if you're a superstar, but you're always engaging, you know what I mean? That's all the guy wants you to be at times, just be engaging.
Again, visiting with Mike James here. We're going to wrap it up here shortly because I know you got to go, and I'm getting hungry, man. I want a Subway sandwich or something.
Yeah, I had breakfast that I wasn't able to eat because of you, but that's all right.
Hey, man, I'm saying don't that now I feel bad, but hey, I got you here now, so I'm going to go ahead and take advantage of it. I got to mention and talk about this MJ stuff, right? Just because I think there needs to be an appreciation from the younger crowd, right? Like, you respect your opponents by not respecting them. And here's what I'm saying. The modern NBA, especially the way it's covered, the way you see it on TV. I mean, you're from, you again, I'm a little bit younger than you. But people don't understand that they were tape delaying playoff games in the 80s. It took Magic, it took Larry, it took that rivalry, and then it sort of evolved into the Pistons, and then you got Jordan, right? The late '80s, Jordan and Gatorade and all this kind. I remember Sometimes I Dream, the little kid playing, doing the finger roll on the playground, the Gatorade commercials.
Like Mike,
if I could be, I could do it. I could remember it right now if I wanted to.
Love being a Mike. Believe me, love being a Mike.
Oh yeah, being a Mike and playing ball is probably a good thing. The difference now. Look, I think Michael Jordan, you could plug him in today and he could still score. He could be in today's game, could score the basketball like he could before. Obviously, different eras, different all these things. Everything is different. I get that. Different athletes even, right? LeBron is the most gifted athlete I think I've ever seen physically. You can't coach that. That's a physically gifted human being that can move a 6'10" frame like he does. I mean, nobody's arguing that. I'm not saying we're going to pick MJ or LeBron. I'm not. My problem is the younger generation. Again, this is just me. I'm going off script here a little bit, Mike, because I got you in front of me, and I don't have another outlet right now. These young people that don't have an appreciation for what came before them, and it starts with guys like Michael Jordan. It is maybe and always will be for a long time Michael Jordan. Have you seen You've been watching the documentary, right?
Yes.
Everybody has. Absolutely, everybody has. What are your thoughts on it? So, first of all,
I mean, you got to understand that. What made Michael great was his mindset, his attitude of I hate to lose more than I love to win. Mm-hmm. First, that carried with him when he played pickup. That carried him when he played anytime he stepped on a court or probably any competition that he was in. That's probably why he gambled so much. Is because he hates to lose more than he loves to win. You know what I mean? And sometimes you're going to lose in gambling, and it's one of those things that you want to try to beat the odds. And I think that what made him so great was not just his physical ability, but his mindset. Michael Jordan did what Michael Jordan did during the era of when they would beat you up in basketball. And that was just a personal foul where you go through the lane one way, you ain't going to do that again because you know that same person is going to be there ready to clothesline you again. But he was crazy. He had to be. He had to be absolutely lunatic because he never thought about what just happened to him. He never thought about the play before when they tried to clothesline him and tried to break his elbow. He went to the hole the same exact way, didn't follow in play. And so his ability to be able to have amnesia in basketball and just allow the flow of the game to just come to him, that's unheard of. And when you compare Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, I always make the statement, Michael Jordan was the robot, Kobe was the human form of Michael Jordan. Michael was a robot. If Apollos, Zeus, all of these demigods is real, and if that was truth, MJ was a demigod. Like, he wasn't normal. He was something different that was in a human form. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't normal. You don't think like that. You don't play like that. You don't move like that. He changed the whole entire game. Could Michael Jordan play today? He would be worse. He would be there. Would You wouldn't be talking about LeBron. LeBron would be average. LeBron would be, it would probably be somebody. They'll probably talk about another player before LeBron based off how Michael Jordan make him look so average. And every time that they would play against each other, the thing that will beat the thing that will beat LeBron, that will make Michael Jordan outplay LeBron, is Michael probably wouldn't go to sleep the night before thinking about the competition and thinking about the game and his approach and what he has to do to the game. Whereas LeBron might just say, you know what, I'm just going to let the game come to me and I'm going to get a good night's sleep, eat, chill, and I'm just going to keep my mind clear. Where Michael is like freaking out because all he keep thinking about is what he has to do the next night. That's the difference. Mindset.
And the popularity of the NBA, what it is today, you can and always it goes no, the buck stops with Michael Jordan. From the shoes,
he has the greatest shoe. Like
that's what I'm saying.
You could put a Jordan on and go talk to a female who was prodded down. Like she got Louis Vuitton, she got about $50,000 worth of clothes, like jewelry on and clothes, and you got the Jordan 11s or the Jordan 9s on, and she gonna look at you and go, "Ooh, nice shoes." Man, like, don't trip.
Those 91, that 91 Jordan, the one with with the tongue and the
I never wore MJs.
Oh man, like, that's the only pair I ever had.
I couldn't play in Jordans and I couldn't wear them. I didn't like how they looked with jeans, and I didn't like how they looked with shorts. And I thought that they looked too good to wear outside. Like I never wanted to like crease them, and they looked too good for me to mess up in a basketball game. So I would rather play in another shoe. If I get some Jordans, I would just look at them. Like I could never find a reason or a moment to wear them. I would just go in my closet and just stare at them for like 15 seconds and be like, "Nah, I'm gonna go put these Air Force Ones on." Like,
sneakerheads are a whole other breed of people too, man. I've got friends who are sneakerheads, and they are like, it's like when you ever met a kid who still has toys that were like collector's items, still boxed from like 20 years ago? How can you be a kid and not play with but those kind of people, those sort of disciplined folks. Mike, before we let you go, man, I gotta ask you again. It would be wrong of me if I didn't talk about Kobe, didn't bring up Kobe, because certainly it's, with everything that's happened in the year 2020, man. I mean, I'm ready to turn the page. Law of averages says 2021 is going to be a good year for most all of us. Let's hope. But the loss of Kobe was a horrible day. It was a shocking day. It still doesn't seem to register that, hey, we can't see Kobe's new movies or any of that kind of stuff anymore. I mean, it's just crazy to me. But your time, obviously, you spent a lot of time in the NBA, and a lot of that time in the NBA, Kobe Bryant was in the league, and you got to play against him when you were in the Western Conference. You got to play against him throughout your entire career. First of all, let's talk about the loss for a moment, and then let's talk about some of the memories that you have of playing against Kobe Bryant.
It's tough because to see someone with such great character and who he is, not just while he was a basketball player, but who he was, even off the court. How he was able to shed light in women's basketball, hanging out with his daughter and taking her to AAU, and how he was able to truly make the transition. I think people really respected and looked up to the person that he was, and the athlete. He emulated the greatest ball player to ever play the game of basketball, and he wanted to be just like Mike. And so he took on Michael's walk, his talk. He stuck his tongue out like Mike. He even learned how to cheer like him. But if you're going to learn how to be great, why not learn how to be great from the person that is great? And that's what he did. He wanted to learn how to be great. And he looked at Michael Jordan as there's nothing greater than him. So I have to be on that level. So why not learn what he knows, and why not learn those secrets from him? And you see me hacking them also, man. The funny thing is, A funny story.
I had to.
We lost to the 81-point game. I was in Toronto when he
I remember that. I
when
remember that
Kobe,
Smush Parker days.
Everybody remember the 81-point game.
Yeah.
And so
I remember how much he hated that team too. How much he talked about that Laker team that he was playing on too.
Oh my goodness, man! Like
Smush Parker, I felt bad for him.
I had a great first half, mind you. I got like 19, 9 assists in the first half. I'm destroying in the first half. I go into halftime thinking to myself, okay, let me get Chris Bosh the ball. Let me start getting Jalen the ball. Like I'm shooting too much. I already got almost a dub. I'll probably end the game with 25. Let me try to get like 15, 20 assists. Like this is the cocky and arrogance that I'm thinking to myself, how I'm going to help my team win this game. And then we come out. Kobe doesn't gain. He doesn't lose his momentum. I come out passive. He come out still hot. Next thing you know, he got like 40 or 50 in the third quarter or something crazy. And then like 4 or 5 minutes left in the third quarter. So the whole trajectory of the game changed. The atmosphere is crazy. I'm looking at my coaches. They not even coaching us no more. They just so shocked at what Kobe is doing. I told Coach, let me guard Kobe. He said, no, Mike, I don't want you to get in foul trouble. I said, what do you mean me get in foul trouble? One of the biggest regrets that I have is not listening to him and going against his wishes and fouling him. Obviously, I must have really didn't want that because you know how you say to somebody like, let me go. Like I'm gonna get him, let me go. But then they
hold
let
me
you
back.
go and you be like, what would you let me go for? Like, you shouldn't have let me go.
Why'd you listen to me, man?
Yeah, I was kind of like a dog barking behind the fence. You know what I mean? Because if I really wanted to get off the fence, I could have just told them, listen, Jose Calderon, no longer are you going to take on this abuse. I got it from here. So I did kind of sit back and just watch my teammates get abused for 81. And I had to
no offense to Jose. Jose was not a stellar defender. He could shoot the ball. He could shoot the lights out.
Yeah.
He was not a stellar defender.
I had the one thing going for me of saying that I didn't guard Kobe for not 1 point of the 81. But then, mind you, we were still in the playoff hunt against I've been wanting to play against Kobe for the remainder of my career after that 81-point game. I was so hurt by the fact that I allowed somebody to score 81 points in the game. All I kept thinking was if I ever catch Kobe in the game again, I'm locking it up. I promise you, he ain't going to score against me, yada, yada. So I finally get my opportunity in Dallas. It's the end of the year. We like one game from like the 8th spot. This is like a huge game for us, going into LA. Mark Cuban is there. Everybody, all the stars is there. They talking about how we done went on like this winning streak and we got a chance to make the playoffs. Mind you, Rick Carlisle puts me on Kobe to start the game. So I'm super pumped and super excited that I finally get to redeem myself after getting 81 scored on me when Kobe guarded me. Man, I got 2 fouls in like the first 2 minutes of the game. I had a donut for the game. We lost. We was like 2 games out of in the 8th spot now. I said, this is some bull crap. I finally got my opportunity to play defense against them, and I totally just went to hacking and doing kung fu. Like, let me leave that man alone. My bad, Kobe. You earned that 81.
That was a man. I tell you what, I remember that because I was living in. I could go all the time, but I remember watching the Mavs game. There was a Mavs game on that night, and all your local coverage would, give you these little around the league updates, and it would kept saying Kobe's up to 55, Kobe's in the 60s now, and I was like, I gotta go see if I can find this game on TV, and watch the rest of it. I couldn't because at that time the Lakers weren't that good. It was Kobe and them. I can't really remember a lot of other. I remember Smush Parker just because, boy, he's
the name.
Yeah, and because Kobe said a lot of ugly things about him.
Yeah.
You know, but hey, it happens. Mike, I'm gonna let you go, man. But this has been. I'd love to have you back because we kind of got wrapped up in talking about hoops, and I could do this all day, but I want to come back and have you back and talk about player development, talk about analytics. I would love to talk about how that sort of played into your career, how you applied those things, and man, I'd love to have you back.
Please, anytime.
You got any John Cho stories before we go? Because he's actually, I think he's watching, he's listening.
John Cho is my boy. You know, we built a relationship while I was here in Houston. It's just funny to me how he, like, when he runs, it looked like he's going like really, really fast, but it's because his legs are so little that they don't really go nowhere. You know what I mean? And his calf muscles really do look like he's like super athletic. Like all he does for his facial pictures is show a picture of his face and he show his calf muscles. So it makes him look like he's about like 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah. Well, I need your help. I'm trying to get him to come on tomorrow and talk with BJ Johnson. I think we're gonna him and BJ we're gonna visit as well. So John don't want to come on the show with me, man. So I got to get John on. So I need you guys to kind of like poke at him and say, get on the
John,
show,
he
man.
He needs to be on the show. He's a genius when it comes to analytics, when it comes to basketball. You know, he understands the business of the game, and I think that what he has to offer, the information that he has, will definitely be effective, and it will definitely help. So, of course, it's not like you bringing someone on that doesn't understand, you know, where the game is and where the game is trying to go and where the game has evolved from. You know, he's been able to benefit based off of how the game has evolved from analytics, you know, and how it helped boost and made him an important piece on an NBA basketball team based off the amount of information that he's able to attain and be able to give to the owners and to the coaches and help them when they trying to teach the players on where they can be more effective in the game. So
yeah, man. Love to have him on, so I'm gonna need you guys to help me out with that. Mike, we're gonna love to have you back. You coming back? You'll be back, right?
Man, of course, man. Just let me know, man.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Mike James here with us on the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast. Again, Mike played in the league for about a dozen years. Played a long time. Was a man that I, from a basketball perspective, did not like at one time, and then he redeemed himself with me and many Mavs fans. About 7 years ago. It's hard to believe it was 7 years ago. I still feel like it was, how quickly this stuff moves. Thank you so much for joining us, Mike James. We appreciate it, and we'll have you back on again.
Thank you. Take care.
Again, Mike James with us on the Numbers Tell Your Story podcast, the EPLAY Numbers Tell Your Story podcast. We got a lot of great content, again, coming your way here rather quickly, you guys. We got a lot of stuff in the works, including more guests just like Mike James. So we do appreciate you guys for being a part of this one. I'm Jamie Horton. Until next time.